Again to Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. I haven't aforementioned. I have referenced Emil Amok, Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you. Hi, everyone. Hey, happy post-Father's Day. Have you had it just about here with all the, oh, Dad, anything you want. Your wish is our command. Have you had it with that? I mean, it's like, I think 24 hours, mom gets 24 hours, dad gets 24 hours. That's it. Now we shut down for the rest of the year. But it's fair. It's fair. Dad earned it. So we're going to have a post Father's Day, a post F Day, post-mortem, an F Day post-mortem coming up here on the show today. Hope you had a good weekend. I mean, I did. I was in touch with all my kids, and that was good. But they made it good. But I was talking to someone, and they said, I just want to be left alone. I want to be left alone with my power tools, or I'm not that way, but I can see that. But I had a good Father's Day. It's always about, for me, it's always about the pre-Father's Day. And if you saw the column, I did the perennial, my Father's Day perennial, that always, comes up either on Father's Day or before Father's Day, because June 14th, it fluctuates. Sometimes it's Father's Day and sometimes it's not. And so I did not go to the baseball game. It was not a great game for the Giants on June 14th. They should have won. They didn't. But boy, they came back on Father's Day. They had a 9-run fourth inning, I think. It was 1 run or 1 inning. They scored 9 runs. Tremendous. They finally showed their potential, such that it is, and made Bay Area fathers and Giants fans happy everywhere. So, so Father's Day weekend was good. And then, fathers get to pick whatever they want to do, whatever they want to eat. It's all just catered to the dad. That's good. That's good. It was good. 24 hours, that's good. So we'll talk more about that and talk about the holiday coming up this week, because a lot of people don't like it. I mean, it's a political thing. Some people are saying, no, we don't like that. Okay, we'll take the day off, but we don't like it. You look at the people who voted against this and you say, oh yeah, all the MAGA types voted against this holiday, but they're all taking it off. You know that. The Chip Roys of the world in Texas, a lot of Texans like Chip Roy voted against Juneteenth. And so we'll talk about that. Let's see what else. We're going to talk about the Tonys. I want to talk about the Tonys because, I'm a performer also on the stage. I've done some off. Maybe add one more an off Broadway production. And I've had a billboard on Times Square. So I feel a part of the theater community, even though I'm here in California. But, I love watching the Tonys every year because they always highlight the things that you may have missed or that you had no clue about, right? I mean, a lot of people find out about what they should see after the Tonys. Oh, well, we got to see that. Oh, that closed down? It's no longer there? And I think that's how people say on the West Coast or the Midwest, if they don't get to New York, they wait to see what was Tony worthy, and then they plan as those shows either go on the road, to Cincinnati or Detroit or parts of California, or if they're like either road companies or amateur companies or semi-professional companies that try to take shows out on the road. And generally, they're going to be musicals. I know. Are you going to see Appropriate open up anywhere outside of New York? Don't even remember Appropriate being in New York while I was there in 2023, nor in 2024 when I was there earlier this year. So, and it was like one of the best plays. Sarah Paulson won Best Actress for being inappropriate. And I want to talk about Sarah Paulson. She gave a great speech about what it's like to be an actor in a theater that has served the public in New York. And it applies to Broadway and off-Broadway. It was a great speech. And it's why people do live. It's why people do live theater. It's why people go to live theater. So we'll talk about that. What else? Oh, and there was one Pinoy at the Tonys. Here Lies Love did not win anything. They got nominated. That was the Marcos musical. Would you call it an anti-Marcos musical? It was kind of a true story, the Philippine story of the Marcos years and the Aquino years. It won. It did not win. And so we'll talk about that. Finally, let me start off by talking about the World Series of Comedy. Because the World Series of Comedy is coming up for me. I mean, it's been happening in different cities around the country. Just finished off in Phoenix. It's going to Boston. This week on Wednesday, it's in Seattle, and I'm going to be part of it. And one of the 40 comics there in Seattle. And the way it works is all these different cities host these comedians. They pick 3, in this competition to compete in the World Series later on in September in Las Vegas. Now, I'm just trying to battle with my sharp 5-minute set. And then if you advance in Tacoma, where I'll be, you go a 5-minute set to a 7-minute set to a 10-minute set. And then the finals are a 25-minute set. And they pick the top 3. If you're interested in seeing me perform, the only guarantee is Wednesday, 7:30 in Tacoma at 6th and Proctor Street. On my screen right now, go to VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets. That's VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets. And if you use the code word GIVE, GIVE, the code word GIVE, GIVE, you'll get a half price ticket. I think tickets are regularly priced at $30. They come out to about $13 or $15, something like that. So check that out if you want to see me live. I'm guaranteed Wednesday, but if you just want to see all the other comics in the competition, you can pick the number of tickets you want there at VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets. All right, so that's if you see it live. But if you're somewhere else in the country and say, look, I'm not going to fly to Tacoma to see you, Emil, well, then you can live stream it and live stream just the Wednesday show, live stream all the shows. I might be on all of them. I might just get eliminated after Wednesday. Then you'd only have to be bothered with Wednesday at 7:30. But if you want to see the live stream, go to the same VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma tickets and pick the live stream option. And same thing, code word GIVE. I think actually with the live stream, if you say you want to see the live stream, it's more like a donation. They ask you, well, what do you want to donate? And you can put down as little as $1 and then go see me. So check it out. That's at the World Series of Comedy this Wednesday on the 19th, June 19th. Definitely check it out. Oh, see, I hate this when I'm not ready with my swisher. There it is. It's the key to transition. So you need a swisher. So the World Series of Comedy in Tacoma, the Tacoma Comedy Club, VIPtickethub.com/Tacoma tickets. And like I said, if you see it live, use the code word GIVE and get a ticket for half price. And if you want to see the live stream, it's for a donation. You can essentially get it for free. Donate $1, $2, whatever. They try to entice you by, oh, do you want a t-shirt? Do you want you want some merch? But if you just want to check it out Wednesday, that's what it'll cost. It's essentially free. And like I said, I may just get on Wednesday because I might not get out of the pack. But if I get lucky and I break out, and I'll perform Wednesday and then Thursday, or Wednesday and Friday, and then if I break out of that preliminary round, then I go to the semifinals and the finals on Saturday. So it's exciting, and it's just a way to stay pumped up about comedy. I mean, you can go to open mics, you can go to the different clubs, but this is they devised this competition, and it's kind of an interesting way to meet club owners and other comics, and it's happening in Tacoma on June 19th. All right, so that's the World Series of Comedy. I talk about it a lot. Let's talk about Father's Day, right? Because I mean this. I mean, did you have a good one? I mean, because Father's Day, it's one of those days where you pretty much say, oh, Dad, whatever you want. Whatever you want. I mean, breakfast in bed. I mean, what fathers don't want breakfast in bed? Moms want breakfast in bed. So, you tell your dad that his wish is your command. Yeah, great. I know it gets old fast, but it's just for a day. It's just for a day. And Dad, come on, has earned it, right? But it's too bad it doesn't work that way for another upcoming holiday, and that's this week's Juneteenth on June 19th. It's a federal holiday. Some of you are going to get it off. Some of you may not get it off, but it is a federal holiday. I mean, but if you can imagine, it worked like Father's Day. Descendants of slaves telling and demanding things of the descendants of masters. I mean, probably not without a fight, but that would be a unique holiday. But maybe that's why we're all getting the day off to think about the history of Juneteenth. When the holiday was passed in 2021, more than 60% were surveyed. They said they had no clue about Juneteenth. And it hasn't gotten all that much better, though there seems to be a push to commercialize Juneteenth like all the other holidays. I don't think we need Juneteenth greeting cards, but what we need is to read up on our shared but forgotten American history. Because this is what happened. This is why we have a Juneteenth. On September 22nd, 1862, President Lincoln, after the Battle of Antietam, signed the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation. It was like the warning to the Confederacy that, hey, change is coming. January 1863, when the emancipation would take effect and slaves would really be free. It was like, hey, here's a warning. We beat you. Things are going to change. Slaves are going to be free. It was actually signed in 1862. That's when there was the understanding. And essentially slaves are free, but it wasn't official till January 1863. But as they say in some TV ads, some restrictions apply, and there were restrictions, especially when it came to border states that allowed slaves. It resulted in a slow roll of freedom that took until 1865 for everyone to get the word. I mean, there was no excuse. Slow Wi-Fi? No, there's no Wi-Fi. Oh, lack of social media? Oh, there was no Black Twitter back then. But, people were slow to get the word. And it took the U.S. Army to come into Texas and tell slaveholders that the law had changed and that the slaves essentially had been working overtime. Imagine having to spend more than 2 years as slaves when in most of America, slaves were free men and women, or had become free men and women. It causes what I dub a kind of legal and political dysphoria, where the concept of a free democratic society just doesn't add up to the reality. And it may seem strange for 1865, but look at how a similar kind of legal dysphoria continues to this very day. I mean, how did Texas slaves feel in 1865? Now, just ask how women feel in Texas and around the country as they fight for their reproductive rights in a split America. Imagine this: in California, home of the most Asian Americans in the country, an abortion is a guaranteed right prior to viability of the fetus or when necessary to protect the life or health of the woman. Ironically, that's not the case in Texas, where a chapter of the Texas Health and Safety Code prohibits abortions outright, with an exception when a woman's life is at risk. I mean, there's always something that legally divides us that isn't pretty, and abortion isn't the only issue. Last week, we mentioned this when a federal judge struck down a Florida law that blocked gender-affirming care for transgender minors and restricted treatment for adults. It exposed another strange rights contradiction in America. Only 14 states and D.C. protect the rights to medical care for trans people. That's California, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, New Mexico, Minnesota, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and D.C. All the others, there's some kind of battle, some kind of court battle, or outright restrictions. At least 25 other states have restrictions or bans on those same rights that those 14 states guarantee, and D.C. guarantee, protect. Now, if you have the day off on Juneteenth, the federal holiday signed into law by Joe Biden in 2021, go ahead, celebrate the very last day of slavery, when the last slave got the word, yeah, it's over. Remember the history and what it must have been like to be a slave in Texas, not knowing that in the rest of America, everyone else is free. And then think of those contradictory laws that still divide us as a country today when it comes to things like abortion, transgender care. Far from a perfect union, in some ways, we're just like Texas in 1865, where many in the country are stuck in the past and could use some emancipation today. So some Juneteenth thoughts. I mean, I'm a little early. It's June 17th, but it'll be here before you know it. And you'll say, oh my God, we got the day off. And it's not because of the heat, it's because of Juneteenth. And you'll say, oh, I don't even know. I was asking some people who are very knowledgeable. And they said, I don't even know what Juneteenth is about. Oh, hey, why do we celebrate Juneteenth? I just told you it's the Emancipation Proclamation. It was the pre-Emancipation Proclamation signed in 1862, took effect 1863. But poor Texas, they didn't get the word until 2 years after, 1865. And that's why Juneteenth in Texas is a real thing. Can you imagine? You get a victory, but you aren't able to savor it. You aren't even able to understand it until 2 years after. That's the kind of delay. That's the kind of slow grip that the slave holders had in Texas. They would not let go. It took the army to say, hey, those are free people. Those are free men and women and children. Think about that history. And of course, because history is so restrictive, because we don't want to hear about the kind of history that tells us about all of America's faults, most Americans don't know this. Most Americans don't know Juneteenth. I think I first heard Juneteenth in 1975. when I was in Texas. I mean, I went from California to Boston, went to Texas to work. I was still a kid in college. First time I ever heard of Juneteenth. 75. And they weren't talking about a national holiday. They were just saying like this is some kind of folk history. Yeah, we were slaves. But they did not have the wherewithal to fight the injustice of the 2-year delay. See how important that is. Finally, it took President Biden in 2021 to get that law passed. And as I said, there are people in the legislature, in the Congress right now, Chip Roy, from Texas, representative from Texas, he voted against it. So you know there are some people who say, we don't like the idea of Juneteenth. We don't like the idea of giving a separate holiday, a separate independence for black people. Well, it's not just for black people. It's for whites too, to understand what happened, to understand what the history is. But it is a celebration, a somber one of history, the last day of slavery, the final day of slavery, 2 years after the fact. I mean, like I said, there was no black Twitter to let people know, hey, we're all free. There was a under communication of the law. Took the army to go in and say, those are free people. And it takes history to understand the injustice. So think about Juneteenth. Think about this holiday. Why you get it off. Why we think about it. Why it's important. And then think about what's happening now. You think about the dysphoria that was apparent in 1865. You mean we've been free for 2 years and no one told us about it? No one told us we were free? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You mean I can talk to my boss and say, hey, I can give him the finger now because he held it from me for 2 years? Yeah. I'm just telling you. If descendants of slaves were able to demand descendants of masters anything they want on a holiday in the same way that fathers get to demand anything they want on Father's Day, oh boy, that people take Juneteenth very seriously. But now it's just a day where we can reflect. We can all just reflect and think, oh, why aren't black people madder? Or why aren't white people more guilty? Why don't, no. This is not about guilt, or this is about feeling good about American history, that something was corrected. Finally, took 2 years. That's why we celebrate Juneteenth. Think about that. It'll be posted on my my page on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. And so catch it a little later on today. And, you know, the thing is, there's a connection to maybe the most famous hate crime in Asian American history. And I'll talk about that on June 19th this week in my column. Look for that. So, you know, there's a lot to talk about here. Talk about Juneteenth and the importance of Juneteenth, and how seriously, how the dysphoria, the legal dysphoria of, oh, it's legal here but not there, or it's legal now but not. I mean, we still have that. I mean, you look at abortion. If you're in Texas, no abortion, you got to go somewhere to get an abortion. You know, that's the reality. And then come back. So in many ways, it's just that, you know, people think, oh, slavery, that's abhorrent, that's immoral. But I guess we can allow it for differences in opinion on abortion or differences of opinion on transgender healthcare, because that's what's going on. There's some states that say no, some states that say yes. But it's just a way to connect us to that 1865 mentality when the rest of the country said no on slavery and only Texas held on. Only Texas said, hey, we're not letting go our slaves. You're going to have to bring the army down here. And they did. The army went down there and the slaves were freed. That's Juneteenth. That's Juneteenth. But like I said, don't think we don't have a need for a little emancipating in 2024 on other issues. We certainly do. We certainly do. So, if you were looking for a Pinoy or Pinay, a Filipino, on the Tonys, I didn't see one. I was hoping that Here Lies Love, the Marcos musical, would win something. They were up for 4 Tonys. Best musical. There was a little clip that showed David Byrne, Fatboy Slim, 2 white guys, but none of the Filipino actors, none of the actors got any kind of accolade. They should have. But I remember seeing the show in 2023 and being really excited for the actors, for the community, the producers. And I have to say, I thought Here Lies Love was fantastic. You can just Google me, Here Lies Love, Emil Guillermo. I wrote something in a number of places just saying, yeah, I've never seen a musical like this. I mean, it's immersive. And yeah, it was at the Public and it was immersive there, but not like it was when it was on Broadway. They went to Broadway, from the Public, which is down there in the East Village, or down there by, the East Village. And they went uptown to Broadway, tore out the seats of a theater, and made it like a huge disco space. And people who wanted the traditional proscenium type effect and musicals and singing and that kind of thing, you could have that. They had it set up for that. But for those who really wanted the Here Lies Love experience, you could go out there on the stage, you can see the actors and actresses, and it was phenomenal. I hadn't experienced anything like that. And I loved it. It was great. It was a great experience. And I thought it deserved something at the Tonys. Some kind of mention. It was innovative. It was political. It was important. I mean, the politics made the frou-frou type of gimmickiness important. Yeah, the politics, because it's all about the Marcoses and Benigno Aquino and U.S. involvement with the film. I mean, this was not like some foreign thing. I mean, if you say, "Oh, come on, it's foreign." I mean, yeah. How about Evita, right? Eva Perón. I mean, that was a big hit. There was no reason why Here Lies Love could not have been a big hit. The only reason why it wasn't, I think, my opinion, it cost too much. It cost too much to make, to sustain, and while you're getting people to come see it, they weren't making up for the high cost of putting on the production. I mean, I remember when I saw it in September, or August, September 2023, I remember the producers saying, I think I got the time right, but the producers were saying, oh, we're booking tickets to January, February. I mean, they were gung-ho. And I was rooting for them. I mean, I know some of them. I'm familiar with some. I was rooting for them. I wanted them to do well. They did not succeed. And it's sad because the talent was there. Filipino talent, singers, dancers, men, women. It was great. I mean, they pulled the Lea Salonga card because she's a name, but they didn't even need her. I saw the production after Lea Salonga left. It was still great because it was just the gimmick of the immersive musical, and people getting the story, if they'd never heard the story about the Marcos regime, the Marcos dictatorship propped up by the U.S. government. This is our story. It's an American story. It's a Filipino-American, Asian-American story. And I was so disappointed when ultimately it shut down. Like I said, see what I wrote. I just Google Aldef, Emil Guillermo, my name, and Here Lies Love. And you can see I was actually fairly, was I raving? I mean, I really hadn't seen anything like it. And I was kind of surprised at some other critics in their response. But in the end, you have to say, well, most people were saying, why are we seeing this? Why are we rooting about, something about killing and murder and dictatorship? Well, because it's an American. It's an American story. We're American taxpayer dollar has propped it up. That's why we should see it. We should know this history. But and the music was fun. The story was fun. David Byrne, right? Putting all his talking head magic into this. I was surprised that it didn't do better than it did. So that was a disappointment last night at the Tonys. They had a little clip of David Byrne. But there were these other shows. Stereophonic, never heard of. I mean, it'll, about a group making music. Yeah, I'm open to it. I'm just disappointed that my favorite, Here Lies Love, got nothing, got no mention. Oh, big shout out, Alicia Keys. She did well, Hell's Kitchen. That's good. But once again, I don't know. I hadn't seen the show. I'm sure it's a great show. Alicia Keys production. But in terms of an immersive experience, Here Lies Love was unique. Very unique. So who was the Pinoy at the Tonys yesterday? Well, it was Nicole Scherzinger. Scherzinger is Filipino. Well, yes, and in the most unusual way. Not Filipino mother, white father. This is a only in Hawaii kind of story. Nicole was born in Hawaii. Ukrainian mother. Ukrainian American mother, Filipino father. So she's like, my kids. White and Filipino. Nicole Scherzinger, she was singing What We Do for Love, which I had never heard that song quite sung in the way I heard it last night, because, she was playing it during the In Memoriam segment where, God, I didn't realize all those people that died. Christopher Durang died. I remember Christopher Durang, one of the first playwrights to come out with gay-themed projects in the 70s. And there were hits, right? I mean, because in the 70s, the playwrights to follow, you followed the angry young man out of Britain. You followed guys like Joe Orton. You followed who else? And then you get into Pinter and Harold Pinter and Beckett and those guys. And in America, it was David Mamet, but it was also Christopher Durang was one of those playwrights. And I didn't realize he'd passed away. Anyway, and to think how the presence of LGBTQ plus themes now, and to think what a breakthrough in the 70s Christopher Durang was to come out with, plays that were LGBTQ themed. Come on, Emil, that's more than 40 years ago. Yeah. Well, it just shows how things have changed and how people have come out of the closet and how the stories are more reflective of the people who flock to the theater in New York, the New York theater community. They're just open to those themes. And so there was Christopher Durang. I saw his name, and so I was kind of saddened that I hadn't heard that he had passed on. Anyway, Nicole Scherzinger sang What I Do for Love, and as you see all those names, it just made sense. I'd never heard that song sung quite in that way. And the thing about Nicole Scherzinger, if you've been following her career, and who hasn't? Well, I mean, I think she was a Pussycat girl. Was that one of her things? But she was on American Idol for a while. She's had a pretty successful career, I'd say, compared to a lot of those great singers and actors and actresses who are in Here Lies Love. So the fact that she was, selected to sing in memoriam What I Do for Love, it was great. Anyway, Nicole Scherzinger, I just point out, Filipino father, Ukrainian mother, and born in Hawaii, and then moves. The Ukrainian mother marries Mr. Scherzinger, and they move to Kentucky, where Nicole grows up and becomes a dynamo. What the hell are we looking at? Oh my God, she can sing. Nicole Scherzinger. Anyway, she's the Pinoy at the Tonys, who is worth mentioning now. But the speeches that I saw, the acceptance speeches I saw, the one that really, got me was Sarah Paulson. She won Best Actress for Appropriate. Once again, I'd never heard of Appropriate because, I follow Broadway, of course, but as I was telling my friend who is at the Ottawa Fringe Festival, I didn't get into Ottawa, so I'm not up there. But I said, hey, they're like, the Fringe is like the anti-Broadway, but we still follow Broadway because they're doing live theater, and that's what people at the Fringe do. And he said, yeah. But there was something about Sarah Paulson's acceptance speech that, first of all, she's a great actress. And not only is she a great actress, but this was her first Tony. And she's talking about, she gets her first Tony. And imagine someone like Sarah Paulson, who's a veteran actress, she's in her late 40s, holding that prize. You've worked all your hard. You did it for love. I know that she's been successful, but for the most part, she's done it for love, right? And she's a great talent. And she talks about being a young actress and seeing Janet McTeer, another actress, burst on stage, and it's all part of her acceptance speech, which I found, if you're a performer, it was enormously touching. Let's see if I have it.
As a young actress, I remember seeing Janet McTeer burst onto stage in a doll's house in the very theater I am currently living in.
So Janet McTeer in a doll's house, in the very theater she's in now, and you get this feeling. You get this feeling sometimes when you're in the theater. It's not like it's haunted, but I guess that's sort of like what I'm implying, that there are the ghosts, the good ones and the bad ones, right? And we know about the Scottish play, and that's part of the superstition. But she refers to something that when she said it hit me. When as an actor in an off Broadway production, I'm waiting in the wings, right? I'm in the wings behind a curtain, waiting to come on, waiting for my light cue. And you think about this, wherever you are in the theater. And she talks about being in a theater that she's currently living in.
And some nights when I'm backstage, I think about the indelible impact of her. I think about the walls of theaters all over this magical town, holding the impact of each and every one of you in this room.
And it's not just in that magical town of New York. It could be in Orlando. It could be in Ottawa, at a fringe, in Edinburgh. It could be in San Francisco. It's just you just know that if you're in an older theater, there were actors who went before you and they performed and they were loved and they were received, and there was communication between actors and audience that was special. And you get that feeling when you're waiting in the wings, or when you're waiting for your cue, or maybe you're hanging out for a scene and you want to hear your fellow actors on stage and you're on the side, as I did when I was at Theater for the New City. And there's just something about being in that same room, off to the side, in the back, as a performance goes on.
And all of those who came before, and I think how lucky those walls are to bear witness to the relentless interrogation of human experience that we endeavor to explore nightly for each other.
It is a gift that the walls have witnessed, right? The relentless interrogation of human experience. We're always asking questions, always trying to figure out, what's it about? And that she says, we endeavor to explore nightly for each other, to give back to one another, with the hope of finding some shared path towards the truth about being alive. Oh my God, she said that, and and it's all from like being with those walls. How lucky.
How lucky those walls are to bear witness to the relentless interrogation of human experience that we endeavor to explore nightly for each other, to give back to one another with the hope of finding some shared path towards the truth about being alive.
See, it's the truth, right? If there's truth in the theater, the truth isn't necessarily in the various scripts. Well, they are, but there's something in there that taps into this idea that we are alive. We're alive. We're living. We're not on video. We're not up on a screen. I'm on a screen now, but at least I'm live. I'm talking to you live from where I am in my post-COVID closet. And she said that was the acceptance speech yesterday that really came back to me, because I remember being on First Avenue, the Theater for the New City, and knowing all the productions that have taken place there. It's an old place, an old theater. And just thinking about those walls, looking at those walls painted black where I was, and how lucky those walls were.
Walls are to bear witness to the relentless interrogation of human experience that we endeavor to explore nightly for each other, to give back to one another with the hope of finding some shared path towards the truth about being alive. This is the heart and soul of what we do, and I am so honored to be amongst you. Thank you.
See, and that, boy, she just said it. I mean, I didn't win the award, but I would have given that speech. I would have, when she gave that speech, I know what you're saying, Sister Sarah. High five, high five. My God. I mean, that's what it's like to be an actor. And really, or a performer. Because, I act, I'm not playing a character, but I'm playing a form. And it's, when I perform a comic monologue or I perform, a stand-up thing. I mean, people know that if I talk about pain, people know I'm not in pain there. They know I'm not acting, but they know I'm okay. I'm performing the form of the emotion, but I'm not in pain. But if you are a performer in any kind of production, Sarah Paulson spoke to you. She spoke to me. All right. So, the Tonys. We'll see what happens with the Tonys. We'll see if we'll see any of those plays they talked about. Too bad about Here Lies Love. I really wish Here Lies Love could have won something. It was a great thing. It was an inventive. I don't usually like musicals, right? I mean, I'm not looking for a revival of Cats or, I'm not going down to see the next production of Wicked or anything like that. No, I want to see, and I like Sondheim, but what David Byrne and the Filipino actors were doing with Here Lies Love, it was unique. It was unique. And it was like a new way of looking at musical theater, how to stage it, how to act, how to engage with an audience. They deserved more. They deserved more. All right. I think there are a couple things I should mention. Joe Biden is making news. He made a ton of money at the Hollywood fundraiser, $30 million, I think. But the big news that should concern Asian Americans, people of color, Joe Biden planning to announce a sweeping new policy tomorrow on Tuesday that would lift the threat of deportation for tens of thousands of people married to U.S. citizens. So this is going to be important. Ordinarily, if you're married to U.S. citizens, I would think that you would be somewhat protected, but apparently not. So the program, he's going to announce a program at the event where Obama-era dreamers, there's going to be an event talking about protection for dreamers, which isn't altogether clear because that's all caught up in the court. But here's the new policy. This is according to 3 people briefed on the White House plans. Journalistically, that's always, you get someone to leak on you. You need 3 people leaking on you. We've been leaked by 3 people who know these plans. This is according to the Associated Press. The policy will allow roughly 490,000 spouses of U.S. citizens an opportunity to apply for a parole-in-place program. A PIP program. A PIP program. Oh, parole in place. You can be a PIPer. Want to be a PIPer? Which would shield them from deportations and offer them work permits if they have lived in the country for at least 10 years, according to the 2 people briefed. They all spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the announcement publicly. The White House on Monday declined to comment. This is how you get news. This is how news works in Washington. Someone knows something. They can't keep it to themselves. They leak it. You get 3 people to leak it to the same reporter. And then you call them according to people briefed on the plans. And then you say they all spoke on the condition of anonymity because they did not want to be fired. Now, because they were not authorized to discuss the announcement. But this is big. 490,000 spouses of U.S. citizens. See, what gets me is that ordinarily the spouses, I thought spouses are automatically given a chance to become citizens. But this is maybe a different program where you go to a different line because it's all about lines. What line are you in? It's all about what program, how you, I mean, this is unfortunately the broken immigration system. So they got to put you in, if one program is broken, they got to put you in a different program because it's a shorter line. So believe me, 490,000 spouses of U.S. citizens represent a shorter line than all the people who are caught in the backlog of people applying for citizenship. So if you're one of 490,000 spouses of U.S. citizens and you're not a citizen, you can apply for a parole in place program. Shield them from deportations and offer them work permits if they've lived in the country for at least 10 years. And that is a long time to have gone undocumented. But, you know, everyone has different circumstances, how they got married. Although you would think that by being married to an American, you would be shielded, but apparently not. So for 10 years, if you're married, you'd be shielded from deportation and have work permits. And this is important because, if Biden doesn't win, there's going to be mass deportations. But this is also the thing. If this is a new program that Biden passes by executive fiat, the chances of surviving an administration that he is not the head of, in the event that he loses 2024, it's all for naught. But this is almost like, this is something, if you vote for Biden, you're going to get this. So if you're one of 490,000 families out there who are in a quandary about what do we do, with our immigration status, this is hope. And if you're a young family, you say, I don't like anybody. I don't like Biden. I don't like Trump. I don't like anybody. Well, maybe this will get you to say, Biden with this, not so bad. I have to say that with Obama, his tenure was mixed. But if you had one thing good to say about Obama, it was generally enough to say, hey, Obama, you're good. And I think for me, even though my opinion of Obama is mixed because of some of the things he did and didn't do. I mean, healthcare is great. Yeah, I had healthcare. But one thing he did do that I didn't have and I needed help on was a house that was upside down. Or if you were preyed upon by a bank that came after you and gave you an illegal loan, Obama helped a lot of people who got these strange, they called them pick-a-payment loans that fueled the 2008, 2009 financial collapse. I think that's one of the understated things that Obama did. Anyway, this could be one of those things. For Biden, though, right? A policy that allows 490,000 spouses of U.S. citizens the ability to apply for a parole in place program. Or as the Filipinos would say, the parole in place, the PIP. I want the PIP, please. I want a PIP for my wife. My wife. Or no. Well, yeah, you can be a U.S. citizen and be Filipino and talk like that. PIP. Parole in place. Anyway, that's exciting. That's one of the big news stories breaking late today. The other thing that I saw is that Vivek Murthy, the Surgeon General, wants to put a warning label on social media. Now, all my kids they're old enough. Whatever happens to social media to them is their fault. But I wish there were warnings on everything, not just social media, but video games And this is a real thing. This is a real thing because people would say, social media doesn't hurt anybody. Yeah, it does. It does. Screen time, self-worth, mental health. It's all, especially when you reach young people and parents feel like they're on their own. They feel like they need help. They don't know who to turn to. I feel for them. I mean, the only thing I think we as parents or my generation had to deal with was maybe video games. And we did a lousy job there. But yeah, I think we might. I think a label would be good. I mean, they put labels on games. Do they put labels on social media? Like maybe instead of an annoying algorithm that spits out advertisements to you based on what you've browsed, maybe we need an algorithm that says or that knows you spent too much time online. Our surveys show that if you spend more than 10 hours a day on social media, bad things happen to your self-worth, your self-image. Your mental health could be an issue. Suicidal thoughts. I know. There's got to be something that could be done. And that the social media folks are fighting this, but there are so many studies out that I don't know how long they can get away with doing nothing. Okay, that's it for today's show. I want to mention again the World Series of Comedy. I'm in it on Wednesday, 7:30 in Tacoma. So if you're in Tacoma live and want a live ticket, you get a seriously discounted ticket. Use the code word GIVE, G-I-V-E, and go to VIPTicketHub.com, VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma Tickets. It's at the Tacoma Comedy Club on 6th and Proctor. Put down, hey, I want to see Emil on Wednesday night, 7:30. And put down the code GIVE, G-I-V-E, and you get a half-price ticket, which is great. Now, do it again. If I finish in the top 3 on Thursday or on Wednesday, I'll go into Thursday and you can see me again live then. And if I finish in the top 3, I could be in the semifinals on Saturday, so see me live then. But the tickets are all at VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma Tickets, and the code word is GIVE, G-I-V-E. Now, if you can't make it live stream. Go to the live stream button at the Tacoma Comedy Club for the World Series of Comedy and find the day, Wednesday, the 19th. And sure enough, you can make a donation as little as $1. Oh, what a great deal. To see Emil? What a deal. What a deal. That's at VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma Tickets. The World Series of Comedy coming up June 19th in Tacoma at the Tacoma Comedy Club. You can also see it live stream. VIPTicketHub.com/Tacoma Tickets. All right, that's it for today, I think. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. We're here Monday through Friday. Going to be tricky because I'll be flying out over the next couple of days. But check out for my column on the Aldef blog, aaldef.org/blog. And I write about Juneteenth, which is your holiday on Wednesday. Hey, if you're cold, or not cold, if you're not cool, not indoors, stuck outdoors in the heat, man, it's hot. And it's a different kind of heat, different places. dry heat. Some more places it's humid heat. Definitely be wary. I think the word is, well, like 80% of the country is in 90 or mid 90s temperature wise. So if that's you, go to some public air conditioning place, try to cool off, stay indoors if you can, but please take care. I mean, people die in this heat. People die in this heat. All right. I told you about the about my what is it? My columns coming out. Oh, and I'll have another column coming out on Wednesday on the most, well, the circumstance of the most famous Asian American hate crime on June 19th. Check it out on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. All right. Hey, we like to close with a little meditation. Because meditation just means, hey, I know I'm in there. I know I'm there. I'm aware of it. And I'm not going to do anything stupid because I know I'm in there. So please, it's the practice is they call it metta, METTA, loving kindness, where you take a little bit of love and you throw it out there to people, to the universe, to your friends, to beings. It comes back twofold, threefold, sometimes fourfold, fivefold. It comes back folded. Loving kindness. As Sharon Salzberg would say, I have all these gurus I follow, who help calm me down. And a lot of them tend to be Jewish people who in the 70s, during their hippie years, went to India and found the answers. So with Sharon Salzberg, it's loving kindness. And so as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Emil, Amok to you. Till next time. Mahal.